Meet PitchDB, the ultimate platform for speakers looking to make their mark on podcasts, conferences, and media outlets. PitchDB provides access to over 3 million platforms, ensuring you find the perfect avenue for your message. With AI integrations, your bios and pitches are tailored uniquely to each opportunity, giving you the edge you need. Join now at pitchdb.com.
Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I am so thrilled to have a true renegade herself, Ann Bennett, founder of Renegade Branding. And you're a best-selling author, coach, brand profit builder. You've worked on website design. You've worked on personal branding. You've worked on business branding for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Truly somebody after my own heart. You know, you've shared the stage with people whose names we're all familiar with, whose books we all read. So thank you for being here and lending your expertise to our podcast today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege, always.
How did you discover the wonderful, wacky world of websites and brand building?
It is. It's like a crazy world, isn't it? I think as an entrepreneur, you got to be partially crazy.
Right.
You know, for me, I had a very long background in fine art. I went to college and got a painting degree, actually, and then went to New York City. It was like a big leap of faith. Did not know anyone.
Wow.
Did not have a job. I had about $800 in my pocket, I think. It's just this big leap of faith. And when I started working, you know, I'm the kind of person who finds a way to do something that other people won't do in order to get someplace. And it lends itself perfectly to like creating branding and concepts and ideas, right? So I got a job at Vogue magazine and I didn't really have any fashion in my portfolio.
Oh, wow.
And it was another leap of faith just to go and do an interview. And what I did was I took their magazine and redesigned the pages and then showed up and opened my book, opened my portfolio, and just kind of stood there. I didn't say anything. They just kind of looked at me and kind of gave me this look. Because, you know, I'm pretty humorous, but people in New York are very serious. And yeah, it worked out good. They gave me a job.
Yeah, that's incredible. Number one, that you had no fashion experience, that you got an interview at a place like Vogue, you know, and then that you, in some ways, had the audacity to say, this is what I'm going to do for my interview.
Right. I needed to do something. Just as you are in branding or in your own business, you've got to stand out and be memorable. There is no way right now, particularly with, you know, AI and all this content that's being created, you have to use your unique pizzazz, I call it, you know, your personality in order to be memorable and be different in the marketplace.
Yeah. A true renegade, if you will.
Yeah, definitely on the rebel renegade side.
So then what took you from working on major publications such as Vogue, and I also see Popular Mechanics, which is very unusual.
I'm very eclectic, right? And because of when I started working basically in the 80s, I was the first a lot. Right? Like the first woman in the art department of Popular Mechanics.
Wow.
The only person to work at Vogue with no fashion in her portfolio. So I was kind of used to it. You know, when you're a really good designer, like which was my background at the time, or messaging, you're really good at messaging or whatever, you can apply it anywhere. It's not limited to, like I can write hooks for truck drivers, okay?
Yeah.
As well as for Vogue magazine, right? So it's a way of thinking and the creative process of thinking and having proven messaging formulas that you know, plug in the concepts and the ideas and the outcomes that people are trying to create in their businesses. It doesn't really matter whether it's Popular Mechanics or Vogue.
Yeah. Well, and that's something, as you mentioned, that everybody's trying to figure out these days. What is their unique hook? What is their unique selling proposition that makes them different from every other company that is out there trying to get people's attention? Before we get into that, and I know you also have a way of creating archetypes and a quiz, I believe, that we're going to put into the show notes that people can take to learn a little bit more. But how did you move? So you moved from California to New York, had this amazing career. What prompted you to then change from the visual and graphic design world into branding? I mean, I know obviously they're connected.
Yeah, they're connected. I think it was, well, I was downtown for 9/11.
Oh.
Which changed my life.
Yeah.
I had a lot of family and friends that worked in the World Trade Centers. So when you have that type of trauma, I call it a miracle. Actually. Because it changes the way you view life. It changes everything about what you believed was possible, what isn't possible, what's never going to happen. That it's kind of I describe it as a meteorite moment. These moments occur in our lives, whether you're getting a divorce or, you have a tragic death or something happens in your family, it changes you really profoundly. So in that moment was when being in the fashion industry and being, the it girl at Vogue and working with all these people that are, the top of their field became meaningless, became like, oh, okay, well, why does that matter? Was kind of what happened for me. And I wanted to take my talent, skills, and abilities and help other people. Help people that were purpose-driven, passionate entrepreneurs. A lot of my clients are women with purpose. It's like, let me show you how you can make that a very viable business. Whatever your passion is, let's message it, let's brand it, let's build programs that people got to have.
Right.
You want to build something, create something that gives you the, I got to have it sense, right, about it. It can't just be, oh yeah, it's another one of those things. Oh yeah, everyone says manifest your, perfect life or whatever. You can't say that because it doesn't cause an emotional response. It doesn't cause anything. It's like, yeah, heard it a million times. Because you know how we are. Our brain is like, and there's so much noise. We're trying to filter everything out.
So much.
And pay attention to the things that we care about.
Right.
So when you're building your brand and your messaging and what you're doing, you really have to dial in to the idea that you influence people, not like you're an influencer and you're a pretty smiley face on Instagram, but you actually use these proven messaging formulas that allow your people to attach you to the outcome that you produce. And that's the secret, really, to having all of the different marketing avenues, because there's so many and there's going to be more, work for you and really make a difference.
And that's where having somebody from the outside, I think, really helps, because sometimes entrepreneurs are too close.
Oh yeah, they're
talking right, and so they can't see what's right in front of them. And I think even for us as marketers, sometimes we go through that same process of not seeing like what is our next thing or what is right in front of us or what is our special hook. You've clearly found yours. And what I think is interesting is that a lot of times I've had clients come to me for like PR, and they have a website and they have their social media and they have a logo, but they don't know who they are as a brand. And so the fact that you started with the arts and graphic design and creativity and the visual aspect in your career, but then you quickly have figured out how to marry it with this other intangible of what is your brand essence and all of that, and created, systems for this is really intriguing to me. How did you decide, or how did you realize that you also understood that side, not just the visual and the beauty and the creation of all those assets that you need, but the actual brand essence?
I think the thing that I've always been fascinated by the human mind and how memory works. Memory is an event that's highly charged. It stays in your mind. It's a story that you tell over and over and over, right? And that becomes your reality. Whether it's true or not, it's another story. As you get older, you kind of look back at your childhood stories and go, oh, I made that up from a situation that happened when I was a kid. Those things are so powerful because they stay in your body, and we all have these experiences. So for me, it was like I went into the visual arts originally because I was dyslexic. I couldn't put a sentence together.
Oh my gosh.
I was one of those people. And at the time, education had no awareness of differentiations of learning styles or skill or anything, right? And it was always about work harder kind of thing and, make it work kind of deal. But the real crossover is that I wanted to be a writer when I was in high school, but I was bad at it. I was fascinated by writing, reading a lot of books and doing a lot of things, but I wasn't good at it. And I had my brother's boyfriend would come and pay attention to me. He was a couple of years older than me. He would come and pay attention to me if I was drawing because he was an artist. So it was like, okay, I was a little motivated on, motivation, but, not in a bad way, but it was just something that got me interested in doing visuals.
Nice.
And it's so funny because now I'm full circle. I write almost everything to match the visual that we're creating for the client, right? And it's all based on their archetype. It's based on really who they are and what they love to do, what they're naturally good at, and choosing marketing that all aligns with that. So it's not 50 million things you need to do. Oh, I have to be on every social platform.
Exactly.
None of that. It's really very like, here's 3 things. Here's 3 things. That's all you need. And people are like, what? What about all this other stuff? And I'm like, well, that stuff's great. And what is your archetype or your personality dictate that's you're going to be good at it? You have to have a personality for video.
Right. Yeah.
And being social. If you look out there at the people that are really good on social media, they have a huge personality. If you are an introvert, not going to work so well. So when I did the archetypes, I started with myself, of course, because I know myself so well. And then I developed out the 4 personality styles. And what's so fun about them is they're spot on. Yeah. They're like spot on. And I'm like, I made it up because, me, I'm like, oh, I'll make my own. I don't want to be, saying the same thing everybody else is saying, even with archetypes, right? Because it's become kind of a popular thing.
Right.
And I'm like, everyone has all these Enneagram and all this other stuff that they
human design. Yeah,
human design, which I love. I mean, it's all great, but of course, I'm like the rebel. I have to make my own. Right? So I made, you're either a nurturer, disruptor, innovator, or geek. And those are the general you can be, a primary and a secondary. Basically, you lead with one of those. And then we build out the messaging, the imaging, what your products and programs, how they should sound so they appeal and align with your personality so that your clients go, oh my God, I got to have that. Because no one says it that way.
Right. Are the people who are attracted to work with your clients typically the same archetype, or are they different? It's just that the message resonated with them.
Sometimes. So, it's kind of like we fall in love with people that are actually like us. It's not like, oh, they're super, my case, they're super conservative, they're super straight, they're super, they're not my people.
Right.
But they don't have to fall into the same archetype as you. You just have to have that general So for me, I attract, rebels, renegades, revolutionaries, people that are like, the standard format does not work for them. People are telling them they have to do video or they have to do whatever. There's all the have tos, and they're the people with the stiff middle finger going, hell no, I'm going to do it my way. But then how do I make it work? How do I veer off slightly so that I become the unique sensation?
I love that.
Again, we were all repeating the same stuff and saying it the same way, and it becomes boring for people.
Yeah. Frankly, it sometimes becomes boring for us. Right? Let's be honest.
I'm always iterating. I was just rewriting. I've got a stage talk in a couple of weeks, and I'm rewriting it based on a 5-minute talk that I gave yesterday on a summit.
Nice.
I had to first make everything really tiny so I could say it in 5 minutes. Now I'm going to make it really big so I'd have 45 minutes to speak and teach and show people really more deeply how it works.
Well, let's talk about that, because you have a book, you're, a public speaker. Are you typically delivering, you've been on major stages. So what is a typical experience, and how did you move to feeling the confidence in your writing ability, that dream that you always had, right? And deciding to write, becoming a bestseller, and then now going and sharing great information for everybody, things that will inspire people to really rethink the way that they approach business and marketing.
Right. I think, you have to borrow, from my point of view, you have to borrow other people's confidence before you get it.
Okay.
So I was lucky enough to have a mentor that she was like, I want you to write all my stuff for my website. And I'm like, you can hire anybody you want. Why don't you hire this company, or why don't you hire this person who, we know their name? And she was like, I want you to do it. First of all, she knew I'm an overachiever like most entrepreneurs, right? So she knew she would get more out of me because I would give more and put more of my energy, attention, focus, and soul into it. Because I was a smaller fish. I was more of a guppy compared to some of these people that are well-known, right, in the industry. And I was just lucky that way. I had that relationship with someone who put their trust in me to begin to write. And I wrote some really good stuff for her. I love when I look back and I'm like, oh my God, that's so great. Who wrote that? And I'm like,
you're like,
oh, I did that. You kind of forget. I do. I'm moving on, right? I'm always moving on into the next project, the next thing. But I think you can borrow other people's confidence before you have that confidence, because confidence comes from taking action. It comes from actually doing the thing and falling on your face and then making adjustments. It doesn't come from doing it and being the best. It's really failing forward in a sense. You're just failing and iterating and tweaking and changing. Like I was saying, I'm changing my talk. I've been giving this talk for a decade. And, as an entrepreneur, we get bored. So I change the photos, right? I change slides and I change how I'm saying it. And I'm always adding and changing and tweaking it, iterating. I had a really awesome mentor, and she would always say, iterate to awesome. And that's really what you do. You just stay in the lane that you chose. Because the problem with entrepreneurs is they're over here, they're over there. Yeah. Like, oh, now I got to go learn AI and do videos and put my face in, whatever. You got to stay right like this. And it's hard for us because, we get excited. I do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is interesting. I go over there. Like I have a house full of books. And I read about half of them and I'm on to the next one. Right?
Guilty. I'm looking, I have like this, I'm doing some work and I'm like taking all these books. I'm like, oh yeah, this book. Oh yeah, this book.
I'm reading a book right now. I had on my bookshelf for a decade.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, and then my friends come through the front door and stay with me. There are other entrepreneurs and I'm like, Are you reading 10x is easier than 2x? And of course, I've started it.
Right. But yeah.
But what I do is I'll get some nuggets out of it and then I'll go teach it. And I just do that.
So tell us about your book.
Laughing Your Way to Loving Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't really know about it because I haven't really marketed it, which is kind of funny. It was a passion project. I've been in other people's books like Hot Women Rock and all this other stuff. But this particular book I wrote with a writing partner that I'd known for years in New York. And I wanted to, my motivation was entrepreneurs are very hard on themselves, I think. They're always working. They're always doing, they're not laughing about it. They're not holding it lightly. It's very, very serious stuff, you know, making money and serving people and blah. It's like, you know, we need to laugh a little bit about it. We need to kind of poke fun at ourselves. So we wrote this book, Laughing Your Way to Loving Yourself, in 12 steps, 7 habits, 4 agreements, and 1 cup of veggie soup for the soul. My friends are always like, did you really put a veggie soup recipe in there? And I said, yeah, you know, a pinch of gratitude, a dollop of fun. You know, we made it up. And then we made fun of all the 12-step things and all the self-help. I don't know about you, but my bookshelf is full of self-help since I was like about 11 years old. You know, always improving and looking to change. Change this. I don't know. We think it look like someone else or be like someone else is better when you're younger. And as you kind of grow into yourself, it's like, oh, I need to actually be who I am.
Exactly.
And allow that to be the driver to my success, if you will.
Right.
To be really comfortable. So the book is irreverent. We've got a forward in there from Reverend Michael Beckwith. In The Secret. He said something about the bridge between heaven and mirth, which made me laugh. I was like, yeah. So we actually impart some wisdom, like good is good enough. You know, came to believe that, you know, my life had become unimaginable instead of unmanageable. So it's like people always go, well, I love the 4 agreements. And I'm like, yeah, but are you practicing that?
Yeah.
It's always about, what do you practice? You know, we're all very smart and very intelligent. Now we have Google and we have ChatGPT and we can find out any information we want. It's overwhelming, really. I think it's Jim Quick calls it digital dementia.
That is I've never heard that, but that is so spot on.
It's what's happening. So that's why the necessity to brand, really, the necessity to simplify. I say that people do 3 things. Yeah, let's figure out the simplest way to create a system to get you to the success you're looking for. And then let's just focus, and dial it in.
I think that you're so spot on with, we forget to take time to breathe and to enjoy the experience that we're in as entrepreneurs and enjoy the successes we have had or the fail forwards we have had that have led us to something better down the road.
Yeah, appreciate it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I was on a planning session, you know, I had three things to do to plan, of course, for 2024. And I said to people, because they're like, we're in a block time, you know, everyone talks about the same stuff, block time. I'm like, do you block space? Do you block time for space to occur? Because creativity comes from nothing. It comes from space.
Exactly.
Right? It comes from open. And they all looked at me like I was crazy because, you know, we're like this. We're like little hamsters. We're like, more, faster, more. Right, got to get there. It's like you get there and you're like, okay. I thought it was going to be rich, happy, and hot. Right. That's why I did all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. Well, then it's the next thing and the next thing, right? I think that we forget to stay in vision. Stay in the vision, the big thing, the purpose and the vision, and let that drive the business and drive the branding and drive the messaging and all that stuff, so that it filters out everything when you do that. Like when you get a really strong brand, or you follow these archetypes that I've set up to simplify it, they make the decision for you.
And how nice is that?
If I'm a disruptor, I'm going to look the way that I look. If I am a nurturer, I'm going to show up like Oprah. You know, I'm going to be talking a different language.
Yeah.
Well, vulnerability is really power, and let's talk about how to communicate in a profound way.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I was just talking about the power of vulnerability yesterday.
Yeah, because, Brene Brown is that as like a great way to look at things. And it's true. When you're vulnerable, people are attracted to you. And we, as women, a lot of times we think of that as weakness. It's not a weakness. It's actually a very powerful thing. And if you ever see a grown man crying, like a 6'4" beefy dude crying in a group of 300 people, they're all crying because he's allowing that to occur for everyone. It's really beautiful.
And that was what I was going to ask you next is, what do you see as the roadblocks? Because I know some of them, and we've spoken about a few, but the roadblocks that particularly women put in front of ourselves as entrepreneurs, you know, we're people pleasers. We think we have to say yes to everything and everyone. There are all these distractions. Yeah.
We overdo it, right? Because we're proving ourselves.
Right. Yes.
For women, particularly, that whole thing of leaving space, you know, because, I mean, if you're a mom, I don't know, are you a mom?
I'm a mom and with one human child who is in high school and 2 dogs who turn 11 on Valentine's Day. And to your point, this has been one of my things for this year, for 2024, is leaving space. And this week and next week, I'm like, I have no space. And so after that, I'm like, I'm going to need to block out. I'm going to have days where nobody can schedule anything so that I can be creative and I can have that time, because I've realized that exact thing. I'm not giving myself the space to be creative and to be in that flow state that will lead me to the next my life. Right.
Yeah, the next thing you're looking to actually produce or create in your life.
Right.
You know, what we do as women is we want people to like us instead of being likable. There is a difference, right? There's a little distinction. Like, you cannot necessarily like me, but I'm pretty likable. At what?
Right.
It's like, doesn't mean you're going to come work with me or whatever. But for people to like me, I don't really care. I don't really care, because it doesn't serve them and it doesn't serve me.
Right.
But we have that built in because we've been trained as Barbie types, you know, as Barbies. I have a beautiful friend who's an entrepreneur staying with me, and she's like, how come I'm so concerned about my body image? I'm like, because it's our society. It's like, I was talking about, you know, I'm in the mature woman category. So what does that mean, and how does that show up? And am I still rich, happy, and hot, you know, because I'm not, you know, 40, not to disgruntle the 40-year-olds, but, you know, it's the way our society has trained us. Oh, if I'm a few pounds overweight, that's horrible. If, you know, whatever it is, if I don't, you know, we're in a world where we can manipulate exactly how we look. You know, and it's what we do as women. We've done it since the beginning of time.
Right.
So to break those, I think they're probably neurotransmitters. They're certainly in your DNA. So it takes something. And I think when you use these archetypes, what I've found with my clients and people that take the quiz is that they're like, oh my God, I can just be myself.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
Think about how freeing that is.
And know the power. It's awesome. when you know that you're awesome, because it's not because of all these other things that we attach to that, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that when you really know that attracts your audience, your people, your clients, then you can begin to do the real work, the real service that you bring.
Well, you have a specific mantra. The more fun I have, the more money I make.
Yeah.
Which is so beautiful to me, because I find when I am in the flow state and open and getting rid of some of those distractions, it just comes so easily. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear how you came up with that. Like, how did that resonate with you? And
well, it's really crazy, because when I was in New York, like I was saying, everyone's so
serious, busy,
super serious. It's like, and there's part of me that really loves that because it's very efficient,
right?
Super efficient. You're not like wasting a breath on anything. But I've always been the kind of person that when I'm having fun, like you were saying, and I'm in the flow of something, the downloads, the creativity, the stuff that just comes to me it's almost, I mean, I hate to use the word magical, but it's so easy. It's almost without effort. It's like being in the flow. I mean, scientifically, I know they've proven that you can actually get in the flow you can create ways to get in the flow and stay there longer, because we want to feel good.
Right.
Right? We want to feel good. That's why you want a brand, because it makes you feel good.
Exactly.
And makes your clients feel good. Everyone's attracted to that. But I think flow, understanding what interrupts flow is more important than actually knowing how to get to flow. So I would look at, I'm a redhead, I'm Irish. Mostly I have some French and German in there, but mostly Irish. So I can get frustrated really fast if things aren't moving at the pace that I think they should move at. And I have to learn to just hold it. So, okay, I'm going to take my attention over there for a few minutes and then come back. So today I was working on my slides for this talk I'm giving, and it wasn't working. And I did it 3 or 4 times and it wouldn't work. And I was like, okay, I could have a tantrum right now, or I could just take a breath and step away. And that's been for me extremely helpful. And then I come back, I do the same thing and it works. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I cannot explain this other than your energy is creating a lot.
I so resonate with that. I'm holding a workshop for a client next week, and I've been working on my slide deck, and they're like, we need to see your slides. And I'm like, I'm not used to having to pre-deliver all of my slides. It's a 4-hour workshop. Okay. So, and I have to do the same thing. I'm like, I was like, I'll have it to you before work starts. This was yesterday. And I was in the flow and I didn't look at the time. And then, but I was like, oh, they already had their meeting to go over my slides, which I haven't sent to them. And I'm like, and I'm still not done, because I have to walk away from it and ideate and iterate and then come back. I can't just sit there. And I think it's hard for people who may not be or might not consider themselves creatives to understand that process. But like you, to your point, I believe that process can work for everybody if they get out of their own way.
Well, everything works when you get out of your own way.
I know I'm keeping you, but I do have one other thing that would really intrigue me was the head whipping hook.
Oh yeah, the hook.
Yeah. So, but the head whipping hook, not the head whipping hook, right? That's a different terminology.
Everyone talks about a hook and it's hooky, but what is a head whipping hook?
Exactly.
Right? So a head whipping hook is something that causes people to go like this. What? That's what it does when you say it. So it's really what I call, it's a hook on steroids, essentially. So it's something that causes, so we're all up here, all of us. This is what's so important about branding and messaging, right? We're all up here and we're all hearing the same thing, and we're filtering it all out unless it's something that we want, then we're focused on that. So a hook is something that interrupts all the noise and allows you to get that 3-second attention that you need in order to engage.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now when we're in digital dementia and we're in, information overwhelm. It's not about the information anymore. You can go to Google or go to ChatGPT and get all the information you need. That's not going to make a difference unless it's dialed in with your archetype and who you are. That's what separates it. So the hooks are things like nobody wants to be so this is for a client of mine that was in the beauty industry. And when I found out, we're talking about you can do whatever you want with this right now. When I found out that she was in a car accident, I was like, well, how did you get interested in that? It wasn't kind of your normal story. I was in a car accident and I lost my nose.
Oh.
Right. So very interesting story. So I said, well, nobody wants to be stared at thinking about not having a nose unless they're stunning. And then every woman wants to be looked at, right? Every woman wants heads to turn. And so that became her hook for her business.
Nice.
So these are, it's a creative process that I have. I work with my clients on creating these hooks and manifestos that really express their values and what they care about, so that when they're speaking, they're not just saying a bunch of words that everyone has heard. They can come back and say things like, it's smart to fit in, but it's brilliant and profitable to stand out. And it's boom. All of a sudden, people know what you do, who you are, and you're kind of fun. So who doesn't want to play with that, right? It's like, because for most of us, even myself, I work with other branding people and messaging people that help me because they're expanding me bigger than I know myself to be. It's scary up there, guys. You're up on the edge of growth, right? And change and iteration, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And you get used to that. You get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's kind of a funny thing that occurs for us. But I think that hooks are really important right now. And with AI, it's going to be more important. As I know, AI doesn't have a sense of humor to make a hook.
Right. We haven't trained the algorithm yet to tell jokes. It's not like Siri on the phone, right?
It's not happening. So, you want to start to begin to dial that in for yourself. And, I have a whole formula for that.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I want to get to, because we're going to, obviously, I'm going to put the archetype quiz from your website, AnnBennettMarketing.com/archetype quiz in the show notes so that everybody can go and learn what they need to be doing. But then I wanted to find out also what are the ways that people can work with you? Is it primarily one-on-one? Do you do groups? Do you have online programs? Are your workshops open to the public?
A lot of free workshops. So watch for me on social media to see that. I'll be posting on my personal as well as my business site. I think I can do that. But anyway, I do a lot of masterclass workshops that are either free or very inexpensive. I have a class that I do 3 times a year called Rebel Brand Formula, which is all about hooks and titles and writing introductions that cause attention and things like that. We're going to be launching that the end of April. So if they go and they take the archetype quiz, they'll get on my list, and then, you can get off if you don't like you get emails from me, but it'll give you an opportunity to get into my world because there's a lot of stuff going on. Mostly I work with clients one-on-one because a lot of the creative process requires that you do that.
Right.
It's, you can go take from the guru people, you can get into a group of 150, 300 people, but I prefer to keep my groups 10, very small, very intimate, or work with me one-on-one because we're creating together.
Right.
It's a synergy, right? It's a relationship. It's much different than just do this format.
Mm.
You know, there's a lot of formats for things, and those are great starting points, but they're not uniquely yours.
Right, exactly.
We're really working in that area with your photography, with your programs, with your messaging and your visuals, so that there's just nobody that looks like you.
Yeah.
Or talks like you or acts like you. Because the truth of it is there isn't anybody that does that. But we're so busy. We've been taught to fit in so much our entire lives. You know, go to school, put the pencil at the top of the page, cross your hands and sit quietly. I know it's changing slightly, but that's how it was when I went to school in elementary school. Behave and march in 2 by 2.
Oh, yeah.
You know, boy, girl kind of deal. But in the entrepreneurial world, it's just the opposite. You've got to be unique. You've got to stand out. You've got to have a personality. You've got to offer things that only you can deliver. You can't go online and shop it with everybody else. You can't interview 5 people and get it. You know, this is what we do now. You've got to have it so uniquely designed for you and what you deliver that you're the only place that people will go to get it.
Oof, I'm very excited to share this episode and get it out as soon as possible so that everybody can hear your expertise. This has been such a fun journey for me. I've taken some notes. I haven't taken the quiz yet, but I'm definitely going to. And I'm like, can you just be my mentor now? I'm just up the street from you, so
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Talk to me after. I'd love to get to know you even better.
Yeah.
And this, when you take the quiz, I will know. I mean, I have clean from our conversation, but sometimes I get surprised, right? Like sometimes people are like, I have a really good friend that took my quiz and she's like, oh, I thought I was a nurturer, but I'm actually the geek. And I was like, Julie, you are the biggest geek. Because it's like, you can't see your own eyebrows, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's why the archetype quiz is so great, because immediately you will identify and you'll go, oh yeah,
so cool.
That's me.
Well, I wanted to see, do you have any last thoughts? And I know we talked about your mantra, but I always do love to ask if there's any other quotes that resonate with you right now.
You know, my favorite quote that has been my favorite quote for quite some time, and then I just love, because I love Maya Angelou. She said, no one, I'm going to kind of paraphrase, no one will remember your name. They won't remember what you do, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Exactly.
And that's what brand is really about. It's a feeling. Yeah. It's like, oh, I want to drive a Lexus because of the way I feel when I drive it.
Right.
You know, and it aligns with my politics or what I care about in the world, right? Or I want Apple because someone like me can figure it out. It's organized for my creative.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's easier for me to use than a Microsoft kind of.
Same.
Right? Very important to figure out how your brain works, what kind of brain and how it works, and then do that. Don't do, oh, I have to go have this CRM because it's the best one. You must match it to your brain.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to struggle.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your story and your journey. I'm going to encourage everybody to go to your website and discover their own brand archetype. It's a no-brainer to think that it gives you permission to just follow what's best for you and who you really are, and take out all of the other noise that's out there. So
yeah, because there's so much of it, right?
It really is.
It's
so
great.
Awesome. Thank you, Ann Bennett from Renegade Branding, for being here today. And thank you to our listeners and viewers for watching or listening to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. I'll be back again in a few days with another amazing expert to share their knowledge and help you build a better brand and business for yourself.
Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.